Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here, episode 15 for your listening pleasure. I spoke with the brilliant, awesome, funny, interesting MadebyJimbob. That's his moniker. He is a political social throw some environment in there. We talked about the environment. Cartoonist, author. He's also a jeweler. That's a really hard word to say. Go ahead, say it 5 times really fast. I double dog dare ya. Anyway, we had a great conversation about all sorts of things. I love his cartoons. I've been following him on Instagram for a while now. And reached out to him, and he was kind enough to be on the show. I much appreciate it. If y'all get a chance, please go check out his Instagram, instagram.com/MadebyJimbob. And if that is confusing or you don't have a pen on you, there's links to everything about him on my heyhumanpodcast.com website. So go there and stuff. Plus, there's just lots of cool stuff on there about all sorts of different humans and links to things talked about in the shows and all that good stuff. And while you're at it, when you're on the internets or on your phone too, you can be on the internets on your phone. It's a modern world. Go to iTunes and subscribe to Hey Human. Write a review. I would really appreciate that. Everything helps to get the word out. Share it with your friends. If you like an episode, send it to Susie or Bill or Greg or, anyone, your parents, your dog. If your dog has an Instagram account, he's probably getting online quite a bit, and he too can subscribe to Hey Human. But enough about all that. I would love for you to sit back and listen to this episode. Well, you don't have to sit back. Maybe you're running. Maybe you're working out. Maybe you're at the office. Maybe you're typing your novel, and then you probably aren't going to listen because it's really hard to listen to people talking when you're trying to come up with words. I know this for a fact. Anyway, MadebyJimbob is awesome. I think you're going to love this episode. I really appreciate your listening to me and my guests. And yeah, as always, you're going to hopefully hear a little bit of yourself and stuff that we talk about. And if nothing else, that is a great thing because it helps make the world a little smaller when we see ourselves and other people. That's a good thing. All right, here we go. Hi, Jimbob. How are you?
Hi. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being on Hey Human. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm a big, big fan of your cartoons. That I follow you on Instagram and shamelessly like everything because I like everything that you do. It's great.
Thank you very much. It's it's actually a pretty new adventure for me. I was doing jewelry for so long, and then somehow I just reconnected with doodling and drawing, like marker. So it's weird. It's only been like 3, maybe 5 months in or something.
Well, you're incredibly prolific.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's start at the very beginning, as they like to say. So you began your story as way back in high school. You wanted to. I read a little bit about you on the internets.com, and so that you started your passion for jewelry making at a pretty young age, correct?
I started drawing before I started talking, I believe. Doodling and stuff, and so art, drawing, and making things was obvious for me really early. And then later, jewelry I didn't discover until I moved to Los Angeles in 2003. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, oh, this is an art form that there's actually a market for. So, it's one of those rare moments where an artist can go, they could actually see a future that can feed them. So I looked at it kind of that way. I saw immediately some of the content limitations with jewelry. So overall, it's like you could make beautiful things, but I think for the most part, people interact with jewelry on a superficial level. Not a bad way, but just they either want something or don't. It's not gonna like impact their life or change their thinking or anything like that.
Sure.
So, but it was a fun form to learn. I was a carpenter before that, so it was almost like the obvious microcosm of carpentry.
Did you were you trying to make a living as an artist before you got into jewelry? When you said, "Oh gosh, you can actually make a living in this other way"?
I think I would say I was, but I was working at Starbucks and like MTV and stuff. So, I didn't. I think trying to make it as an artist, as far as like visual artist, I was too young to know what I wanted to say. So I could have said at one point, I'm trying to do this, but I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But just painting things and like, they had no meaning to me. Mm-hmm. They had no like experience behind them. So really, if I said that to someone back then, they didn't know, or they did know I was full of shit. So.
Good. All right, so your Instagram, which I follow, is MadebyJimbob. So for all you listening, Instagram.com/MadebyJimbob. And looking at the images and the commentary that you make and the jokes and the puns and all that stuff, I mean, your humor is quite biting in a great way. I very much enjoy it. It's very dark and it's very just spot on the nose. So you're doing the jewelry thing, and then I guess did you get fed up by what was going on in the world around you, and you thought, oh my God, is it because you were going to have a kid? Is it just, what was the impetus to get you on the train of these cartoons?
It was weird. I was doing jewelry, and I owned a shop, and I'm in my 4th and last year. I knew I was moving out of there, but I wouldn't stop jewelry. But what happened was I was watching Game of Thrones, and I was all caught up in everything. And I drew, this idea came to me based on one of the characters, Arya, the little one who has, she has no name. I don't know if you're caught up with that.
I'm the only one in the planet who has not. I wanted to read the books first before I saw the show,
So without ruining it for you, I drew a cartoon that was like really not a well-drawn rendition. I did it in bed, like before I went to sleep, because I was like, oh, this is such a dumb, simple idea. And I posted it, and then the next day I saw someone said, hey, George Takei shared your thing on his Facebook. And then like Will Wheaton, another like sort of nerdy pop culture icon, posted
I know exactly who that is, yes.
All these people posted this thing, and it went completely viral for like 2 or 3 days, and I was like high as a kite, and I was like, holy shit. And so from there people were like, well, where's your other stuff? Because they went to my Instagram, it's all this like beautiful jewelry, so it didn't make sense. And I was like, I just didn't post it yet. So I had to just kind of like go crazy. It was my opportunity to look at what is it I want to draw and have people see, and it just led to all these ideas that were in my head that I didn't know that were there, that were just ready to come out. It was like a little fireball.
Do you have a particular favorite topic that you go to? Besides the absurdity of humanity, which is clearly an overlaying concept.
I would say that I don't think it could be put in better terms than that, is the absurdity of humanity. I love looking at hypocrisy, but not in like the overly exaggerated pointing at someone like you did something wrong. Just the humor of hypocrisy is hilarious to me. Mm-hmm. it's more of broad. It's like a broad thing. It's like if I look at it from a broad perspective, I could find these things in the smallest little detail, which is kind of my access point. So absurdity of humanity. I don't know. Even hypocrisy sounds so heavy. It's more like irony. Like I see that anything done in excess inevitably leads to irony. Like, someone collects a bunch of guns to protect their family, but then their kid has access to a bunch of guns, like, immediately. So, and that's just one example. And, it just exists everywhere. It's like it exists with me. It exists with everything.
Yeah,
so.
I like the one that you did. I like them all. The one that you did where it's a police officer. He's about to shoot his own shadow.
Yes, yeah.
That
one came
good.
Yeah, that one. That was politically that was happening, and I was like, I'm not on anyone's side right now because I know like these issues get so split to the extreme to each side that you can't even see the middle. So I was like, I want to do a cartoon that exposes. It doesn't even expose it. What it does is it exposes how people think about these things, which it doesn't. The cartoon. A lot of my cartoons say something directly, like this is this way or not this way. That one specifically just was the image, and it had no words, and it was amazing to see how people reacted to it. Like some people were like, "Why is the shadow black?" And I was like,
"The shadows are black."
And I was like, "Wow."
Yeah, it is interesting how fired up people get in weird places. That I like watching basketball. I know nothing. I don't know anybody's names. I don't know their life. I don't know any of that, but I've been following the one man who doesn't want to stand for the national anthem, and he commented. He said, "When the country stands for something that it's supposed to stand for again, then I will." And now people are vilifying his choice, which to me is such an irony. Anyway, I mean, you live in a country where that's a choice. You don't. Yeah. Why should you have to stand for that if in the moment you're not feeling like it's standing for you? It makes total sense to me. And yet there are all these crazy situations that professional players get into, and we just look the other way because that's okay. But we get mad when a man doesn't stand up for the national anthem. It's bizarre to me.
Yeah. Well, it's like almost like when you stand for something you believe in, it's like it opens you up to the complete, wall of opposition. So, like, if there's opposition, it means you're onto something.
If you sit for what you believe in, you'll stand for anything. If you don't sit for what you believe in, you'll stand for anything.
Again, the irony of sitting is the act of, And I don't think people realize what they're really... I think people collapse what they're criticizing. Like, they're criticizing from one point of view, but they haven't distinguished that it's actually something else they're criticizing. I had a conversation with someone about that, and they were like... And the concept was, I understand what he's committed to and what he wants, but he hasn't made a direct request to anyone in particular. So they're almost people who criticize, if you look deep enough, they actually want the person to be impactful more. They want the leader to emerge. Mm-hmm. They're almost frustrated that they know it won't amount to anything. They're almost mad at themselves because they feel powerless because, and these things happen all the time. Like, something will come out and it's like, people make these gestures that are powerful in the moment, but people get angry because they don't get to like join in. There's no way to participate in a way that they know will make an impact, Do
you think that stems from a lemming type mentality that so many have? We'll stand behind you if you have a concept that we can stand behind you for, otherwise we'll just get mad at you. We won't stand behind you for making a stand.
Right. I think people will stand behind complaints more so than an action. Like if you request an action of someone and it causes discomfort to their living situation or their life or anything, it actually challenges them. They'll hate you for it.
Yeah.
But if you give them something to complain about to easily join in, they're there like in a second, because it doesn't cost anything to participate.
Yeah.
So the reality is that it's easy to complain, and then if even something you stand for is expressed in a complaint form without an action, then it's going to attract other people complaining about that thing.
Right.
So it's often what happens is that people are actually looking at themselves in the person and saying, "You're doing that wrong," because they're saying, "I'm not doing this right."
Right, because we're all just a giant freaking mirror for each other.
It's a mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one of us here.
Absolutely. I believe that fully. It's funny too. Have you ever read the children's story by James Clavell? So
No. James
Clavell, he wrote Shogun and King Rat, all these great epic books, and he wrote a very tiny book called The Children's Story, and I had a hankering to reread it, and I realized I had given out my last copy, so I ordered it on Amazon. This was about a month and a half ago, and reread it. It takes about 15 minutes to read, and the premise where the story came from is that his little girl came home from school one day and said, "I learned the Pledge of Allegiance today." And James Clavell said, "Okay." And she started to recite it to him, getting some of the words wrong. And he said, "Well, do you know what that means?" And she said, What means?" He said, "Any of it, what you're saying." And so this spurred on this book. It's a fantastic little book. And it's exactly what you're speaking of. If we just do things, we don't know why we're even doing them. It's just there's a leader in our mind or in the populace or whatever saying, "This is how it's done, so do it." It's kind of terrifying, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's true, and everyone wants the leader, but they want the right also to hate the leader. It's like it's a dual agreement.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to do it, but if you do it, you're basically allowing me to criticize you for leading. So that's just how that goes. And then if you point to someone and say, "Get it, tag, you're the leader," they're going to be like, "No, I didn't ask for this."
Yeah.
But
it's quite bizarre to watch the crowds now at these political functions.
Mm-hmm.
Or even the vitriol that is spewed across the internet, or even at a dinner party. I don't know what has happened to the good old days where people just talked about differing opinions. Like their personalities are so wound up in it.
It's gone pretty extreme, and it's the equivalent of people getting upset or fighting about their loyalty to Starbucks versus coffee bean. They don't know what goes into roasting the bean. They're arguing, and they, meaning me, I get into it too, where I'm like, wow, I don't really know anything about this, but why am I so compelled to argue as if I'm almost a spokesperson? And I think that thing always existed, but now it's like it's exaggerated because we each have our podium. We have these things. We have accounts. We have podcasts. We have Facebook. We have these. They're mini soapboxes, and if you get enough people, then it validates your perspective,
which is dangerous.
Especially if it's for sale. That's when it's dangerous when you can buy perspective.
Yeah. Well, we're given perspective constantly of the images we see. I talk about this all the time, that the advertising world is constantly telling you who you are and what you think. Right. And most people eat it like candy cane,
Yeah. Yeah, I think the power is really in what you decide to consume. People, I don't think, have a direct understanding or relationship, because it takes time to say no to these images and these products associated with this narrative. It's not the person on the top who you want to point to and go, "These guys are like sexist pigs." Even if they were, what they're doing is offering a narrative along with some products and advertising that you're either going to take or not take. And so the moment you stop taking them, they don't have any power anymore. But we've gotten into this like little quicksand of going like, no, it needs to be changed. So let me go to the person who's making it bad and demand that they change it. But that's just more like giving them more power, because you're going to the source, you know, you're going to who you're complaining about, and you're asking them to change it for you versus just cut it off. Like, don't buy that shit.
I think this is why shows like Game of Thrones and The Man in the High Castle and all these hierarchical TV and what's the one with Kevin Spacey? House of Cards. And I think that's why these are so popular, because it's people can rally against a character. They don't have to actually go outside and rally against something real. The thing about your cartoons too that I quite enjoy is that I don't feel there's an agendist quality to it. To me, it just seems like, oh, this is a thought I had today, and I'm going to write it out and share it, and then let it go into the world. You know?
Right. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
If there was an agenda at all, it would be, at some point, not all the time, is to cause discomfort or upset or opposition. Like, just push a button. Like, sometimes I want to push a button. Sometimes I just want people to smile and realize their own tiny speck of experience that they are. You know, that like none of it really matters in the end. It's like,
well, it's like the cosmic joke, right? Are we all in on the cosmic joke, or are we not all in on the cosmic joke?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're both the magician and the person being tricked.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
yeah, I like to mess with that stuff. I like to... it gets more difficult, though, once you... I don't know, once you hit a the moment I got into, like, a little, like, space where it affected people, where things were shared rapidly, and I was like, well, I hit a chord here. There's this weird thing of, like, addicted to that sensation again, where, like, that's what I have to do. And that becomes the goal as opposed to what the original intention of drawing was. So it's this kind of constant reining in of, like, my ego of, like, I want to make an impact, and I want this shared, and I want people to like me, and I want people to say, hey, that guy's amazing. All that shit that comes with the ego-driven stuff. But I have to constantly rein it in and be like, that's not why I drew in the first place.
Is that where the one with the girl sitting at the drawing table, and she said,
yes,
yeah,
that's me. That was like,
yeah,
and that's the work for me is I'm looking at the world, but I don't get to draw it unless I see myself, like, or else it doesn't translate unless it's exposing me as well. If it's not exposing me, I'm just reporting something that someone else already reported. So that's finding, like you said, finding yourself in these things is the key to everything. I mean, that's the key to anything that impacts people. Like, I mean, I think about politicians. If they were more vulnerable, they could really move mountains. Like, they could say, like, if they just exposed themselves instead of making it the media and the people's job of exposing them, we'd all be like, holy shit, they're humans. Humans are our leaders. But right now they're not. They're standing.
Yeah.
All of them. All of our heroes are standing on a very brittle pedestal that we're chipping away at.
We're either chipping away at it, trying to set it on fire, or adding a new stick for them to climb up on. It's kind of the choices.
Right. Yeah, it's like, here. Yeah.
Building the effigy.
Like, yeah. It is. It's like, I assume this is like, at least socially, how, like, I don't know if it was like Rome or something. Some society or civilization where there were these emperors and the people were just constantly, like, throwing tomatoes at them and demanding stuff, and they were popular or unpopular. It's like it seems like nothing has really changed, just that, now you have like Twitter. So it's like
Twitter is your tomato.
Exactly.
That's great. So do you get hate mail?
No, actually.
That's good.
No, I've removed my person from it, which I think at this point is important. A part of me is tempted to start something else, like a YouTube channel or something where I'm actually putting my person on the line. But I don't know if I want that, because the trade-off and reward for causing a commotion, it sometimes doesn't, it's not equal, like the cost of like dealing with people who hate your opinions and all of that, and then I'm like, well, why would I do that to myself?
And there's a whole species of human that likes to hate just for the sake of hating.
Oh yeah, it's just so much fun for them.
The troll people.
Yeah, but a part of me does want to investigate how to convert trolls. I think it would be a great book for dummies. Because people, it's easy to just like hate the troll, and that's a hateful, bored person who's just, that's what they're doing, or they're getting paid to do it. You never know.
Oh, so, yeah.
It would be fun to actually almost like be like the Jesus for trolls.
I had a guy once. I made a friend with a guy who works at Wine Enthusiast, and I know nothing about wine. I know it tastes good, but I couldn't tell you all the different whatevers. I know what I like. Anyway, I had seen this fun article. I can't remember even now what it was, and I tweeted it to my friend at Wine Enthusiast, and a troll came along and just made so much fun of me, and not even in a clever way, just a dick way, Mm-hmm. And so instead of I kind of was like, that seems weird. It was like 2 a.m. too. So I responded to that guy. I said, I'm confused. Are you being ironic? And I just thought I'd egg him on a little bit. And he said, well, this story has been out for a while and everybody knows this. I said, well, I didn't know it, and I'm learning about wine, and for me it's really exciting. I said, I'm sorry that for you that you find that offensive, but I would think you'd want to support, and I went on this whole little diatribe, and I don't think he knew what to do with himself.
Because you came with niceness and like calm, pragmatism and just rational speaking. I think they can be disarmed quite easily, because the reality is they're a person. So what would you say to that person if they came at you that way in reality? It might be more challenging, but people are, in the end, they're people. I mean, I had an experience when I was in Alabama and I was talking to someone who was very clearly outspoken, racist, saying terrible things. And then in the next day, we were in a more public place, and he was talking to the same, ethnicity that he was making fun of, and he was being so friendly. It's like, these things they can all be like quite demolished in a moment. The moment the humanity shows itself, hardly people can withstand it, because most people are good, even if they troll, even if they're nasty, even if they think they're racist. Like, context is what decides how people are. Context. So
I wouldn't mind a little less human and a little more humanity. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Right. Yeah.
So you're working on a book?
Yeah, I'm looking at, some of my favorite, maybe 30 images, and just organizing a book around it. Just the images, really. Mm-hmm. Nothing more, nothing proclaimed or anything. Just, here's a book. I don't know what to call it yet. The most commentary I get directly when I talk to people are, when they see an image, they're like, you should make a t-shirt of this, which I'm like, of course, that statement is like endless. So I was thinking of naming the book, You Should Make a T-Shirt of This.
That's great. It reminds me of something that... Do you know who Ashley Brilliant is?
No.
He's a cartoonist that... I don't know if he still does his thing, but I remember my mom had this book of his cartoons, and it was commentary on the world and life and philosophy and politics, and they were generally a single sentence. And I absorbed that book, and you remind me of that sort of thing, and that would be something he would say. He should make this into a T-shirt. That would be great.
What's the name?
His name is Ashley Brilliant. ASHL. I guess it's EIGH, and then Brilliant.
Okay.
He had one that I had on my refrigerator forever. It said, "Appreciate me now and avoid the rush."
That's funny.
Which always made me laugh. So I'm going to ask you the job interview question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? But what are you moving toward? Do you know? Or is it more day by day? Or
I think as far as like what I'm making and stuff.
Sure. However, whatever that means to you, I guess.
Yeah, I really don't know. I think just sticking to proliferating work and just sticking to that and knowing that that'll yield something good if I'm being honest in my work and myself. Like some of the right people will notice, and then I'm coming out of this phase where I'm 35 now, where it's this like permission-based thinking, or someone's gonna notice you and save you, or someone's gonna notice you and finally you'll get the big chance. And it's like, that's all bullshit, because even if that comes along, that's their big chance using you. And that's something
so well said. Oh my God.
And it's true, and it's not even bad. It's just people, when they see value, they want to capitalize, and that's normal. But a lot of times the artist doesn't know how to be that aggressive person to themselves. They don't look at themselves as a product. They're like, I'm an artist, but I'm seeing I'm a product. What I have to say is a product. And my job is to figure out how to have it support me, so I could like live by the beach and do what I want. And there's. So I think getting rid of that thinking of that someone's going to, notice you, and, that's like it's a big leap to take, and it's probably the best thing for me. Even when I started doing these, I was like, oh, I have to tag like New York cartoons, the New Yorker, and all these people, and they have to notice, and maybe Huffington Post will like post my stuff, and then I just like I try to like take myself out of myself and look at me from the corner of the room, and like I would slap that person. Like, what are you doing? They're not. You're it. You're the Huffington. You are your own version of that. Your job is to steal all of their followers. To get them looking at like more provocative stuff, and because I look at these things, I'm like, wow, this is actually not what I would be saying. Like, these are all surface and sort of cute and funny, and that's really cool, but I wanna cause commotion and some upset. Yeah,
I mean, that's one of the brilliance of you, I think, is that there is that darkness, and I'm a full believer in understanding one's own shadow and riding along and grabbing a coffee and not quite killing anyone for the day.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. So, and God knows we need it desperately. The things you say, we need to hear. I believe.
Yeah, I think I would like to think that the things people also have to say, people want to hear, if only they figure out how to say them without dancing around or pretending that they're saying something else. Like people can't be themselves. Like, as nutty as that right culture has shown up in the media, there is something to say about being politically correct, or like governing language around things and forcing people to say and do things in certain ways. Like, I mean, they take it to a whole other level where it's not approachable. But I do think that that's stopping, some of that is stopping us as people, like saying what we want and realizing offending someone, even as shitty a comment or intention behind a comment is, the power of someone who's listening is beyond the power of someone speaking. Like, the listener actually decides how impactful the thing is. So, like,
they spread it, they make it viral, they tell their friends. Yeah, this is this is that, this is so bad, this is sexist, this is racist, this is, all of these things are, the power of them is that they are distinguished after they're said. They aren't, it's like the tree falling in the forest. Like, they aren't, without a listener, they're nothing. So you could almost listen out these terrible things by not giving them any power. Mm-hmm. But that's people giving up their addiction to reactionary. Oh, that's such a powerful drug, isn't it?
I could react to that. I know exactly what to say. You're this, you're that, you're ignorant. All of that stuff is like so ready to go. It's like a machine gun, just like da 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 da. Yeah. And they can't wait. You can't wait to put people in their like place, with ethics or morality or all of these. It's a weird time for me, because I want to say all of these things. I want to say something that might occur as sexist or racist. I want someone to come and say, "Hey, is that? What do you mean by that?" I want there to be discourse over these things.
Do you get that in your feed a lot? Do people start the conversation, or mostly?
No, they don't. For the most part, people appreciate what I'm posting, which I'm like, well, if I'm not causing there's nothing wrong with not having some negative people trolling you and stuff. I've had people steal things, but I don't consider that as like trolling.
What do you mean by that? Steal things?
Just it's normal. Like, you draw something like a cartoon. The cartoonist is hardly credited when it's circulated. That's normal. Yeah. But the police one, someone literally drew the same exact image, but swapped out the policeman character for the policeman from The Simpsons, the pig guy. Which is like, at first I had a reaction. I was like, what the hell? Like, because people were commenting like, wow, that's so deep and thoughtful too. And it's like, I spent more time thinking about that image than I did drawing it. Like, as far as the intention and what I wanted it to say, and then here's someone just taking the idea of it and drawing it like in like a sloppy way or whatever, even a similar style as me, like sloppy and sort of somewhat careless drawing, and then just running with it. And then I even confronted him like, hey, does this look familiar? And then he blocked me. And then it's just upsetting to me, because I thought about this. It's like, it's at the surface, it's upsetting because it says to me, it's like I'm stealing I'm stealing you. Like, that's not yours. Like, you don't deserve something. It's like, but beyond the surface, it's upsetting because that person who stole the idea, he doesn't get to experience the accomplishment of what he wants to do because he's stealing. So it's like he already gets his punishment for doing it, so I don't have to manage it.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's just a stupid drawing, so it's not really a big deal. It's not like he brought it somewhere and licensed it and got rich, and so there's nothing really to fight over. But
except for principle, which we seem to be lacking of.
Principle, yeah. People don't. I don't know. It's like you can't. The things that are most important to us are things you can't police.
I find a great irony in the fact that a person would steal the image and reappropriate it to the Simpsons thing, and yet somehow in the mindset of understanding what your cartoon meant, feeling that depth, and then turning around and doing something pretty gross and shallow is this grand irony. It's like the people who scream and yell about, pick any topic, I don't care, let's just pick racism. And then they're driving down the street and they throw a Coke bottle out their window into the street.
Right.
That same person. How can you on one hand be screaming about this one thing and completely disengage from something else that's equally as important as, a planet that you're trying to survive on? To me, that it's like, it makes my brain explode trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's nitpicking. and then like the thing to do is like always look at ourselves, like where are we doing that? Like where do we discard we have this moral stance at one point, and then it's, why is it gone over over here?
Yeah.
Like, and we see that it's completely gone over here. That's hard to see. That's a blind spot. That's like...
Oh, definitely, it's good to say, why does this frustrate me? What am I doing in my life that this is a mirror and now I'm pissed because I'm just looking at myself? I've never tossed a can out of a window, but I'm sure I've done other things that are highly annoying. Yeah. And it's funny how you get so caught up in the moment. I followed a particular car that did that the other day. I followed for I had to go that way anyway, but I kind of followed behind. And in my mind, I was trying to see the person. I'm trying to imagine their life, thinking, what life do they live? Like, what does their house look like? What are their friends like? Did they grow up? I just had this whole thing, and then it was my exit, and I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta go on my merry way.
What is it like to follow them home and sleep on their couch without them knowing?
Yeah, exactly. Or to pick up I have little fantasies. I'm weird, though. I have little fantasies of, stopping real quick, scooping up the can, following them for an hour to wherever they were going, and then walking them go, I think you dropped this. But why? Why would I need to do that? Why am I trying to police the world? That's my stuff.
That's actually really funny. I thought of that. I have a shop, and it's my last month of the shop, but people would throw cigarettes all the time, out on the front of my shop, and I'd get so pissed. And then I'd start judging them, and then I would go out and be like, you have to pick that up. Then I distinguish two things. One is, that's the front of, if I'm angry and that's the front of my shop, I go and pick the cigarettes up because I want to, because it's me. I'm actually more fulfilled in doing it that way than telling them to and shaming them, and then them reluctantly doing something that I know they're going to do somewhere else anyway. So then I got that part, and I was like, oh, okay, I will pick up. I will be the person I want them to be right now, and it'll be better for me. And then I realized I didn't draw this one yet, but it was it's like a boat, those boats where they dump garbage into the ocean. So it's this big crappy boat, and there's all this disgusting crap and garbage pouring out of the boat, and there's two guys on the fence, looking out of the ocean, and the one guy's saying and I couldn't believe this guy. He actually threw a cigarette out and littered right in front of my house. And it's the reality is, all we're doing is saying, don't throw that out there, throw it out there.
Right. No, I know. It is. It's crazy. It is. It's a very good point. And I love what you just said, that I'm going to try and be the person that I want them to be.
Right.
Because really, that's all you can truly do. It always starts with ourselves. It's the only thing. So has the way you see the world changed with the birth of your child? Who is beautiful, by the way?
At first it was like, oh God, I have to stop watching porn now. Or
awesome.
I hate guys. I'm gonna make her be a lesbian. Things like that. All this protective, irrational, really extreme, perceptions of reality start flooding in. You could see how, parents become a little more conservative because they have kids, and it's, inadvertent. It's just, predetermined, thinking. You're this wild person, you're, free, and then you own somebody. you essentially have, ownership over this thing that eventually you won't have ownership, so you need to mold them how you're basically like a god, which is like weird. It's like everything I'm against, I have to actually be now. So that's weird. That changes your perspective. But the good thing is, like, there's joy literally every other minute. You know, instant joy, like heart-shattering joy, and you're just like, I can't even. All of the rest of the stuff will get figured out, and it's not my job to like save the world and wear a cape. Like, if I can give this person love, I have to believe that it'll exponentially grow.
It'll work itself.
And I do believe that weird, unmeasurable intentions, like they're unmeasurable, and they should be unmeasurable. Like, the intention you put into loving someone and loving people, that practice will ripple, and I don't need to know how. You know, I don't need to know how the clock works to know it's 1 o'clock. It's like, it's happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So if you could go back and tell your, let's say, 15-year-old self something with what your wisdom now, what would it be? And would you give that same wisdom to your daughter, or would it be different, do you think?
If I were to see my 15-year-old me, I would say, don't listen to what anyone has to tell you, especially if they're the 15 years older version of yourself. I'd say you're going to have to figure this stuff out on your own. So, good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's anything I would tell them, because anything I would have to say now to them, it wouldn't be right if they understood it at that point.
Sure.
Like, they have to go, like, screw up and, like, trip over things and say the wrong stuff and all that stuff. So, it changes. Yeah, but having a kid changed my perspective. Oh, the other thing that happened is, I don't know if this happens when something else big happens in someone's life, where all of a sudden the only thing that matters presents itself. In this case, it's a child, and the rest of things, the toxic relationships, or even the fringe sort of superficial friendships and things, those literally, like, go away. Like, you don't have time for them, and you also make a conscious, choice of just, like, I can't fit anything else here. Like, it's like the term that I remember is like, it's called going through the eye of the needle, where, you know, your life converges into this, like, single tiny point, and only what's you and what matters to you can fit through that point, and the rest it's not useful to you, and you're not useful to it. So therefore, there's no guilt about it. It's just you move, and then that's it.
Yeah. That's very wise. What is that on your Band-Aid? I just noticed it's a little image.
I have a little cartoon. That's funny. It's Elsa from Frozen, I believe.
Nice.
That's funny. That's funny because I did a cartoon of her. You know the song, like, Let It Go, Let It Go? It was a cartoon I didn't keep posted because it was so dark, but it was her tied up and blindfolded, and it said, let me go, let me go.
Okay, now that's interesting. So you kind of, in a way, censored yourself. Why did you take it down?
I don't know, because there are people who are tied up and blindfolded, and it's pretty traumatic probably. So, like, I feel like if that happened to me or my daughter, my partner, I don't know if I'd make a cartoon about it.
Yeah, I understand.
But I also, a part of me would think, like, well, if you could make fun of it, it could dissipate the power of it, which is the reason for comedy and media. Media is not doing its job properly now, but
I think comedians are trying. I feel like
comedians are trying, but there is the PC infiltration happening. I've done stand up for a couple years, and I know a lot of people do it, and there is that there is censorship happening, like, within it, and I'm like, that's dangerous. Like, George Carlin would crush this kind of idea. Like, your job is to make people laugh, but beyond that is to make people think and make people uncomfortable. Like, you don't want the crowd to just agree with you.
Right.
Like, you don't want them like, oh, cool, I already knew that, and I'm so glad he said it that way.
That's like Louis. That's why Louis is so great, you know, because he makes people uncomfortable in times.
Yeah.
Along with a lot of
he's great.
others.
He's also he's like a warrior for just free speech, saying what you want, you know.
Yeah.
That's so important to me, too. Free speech is really important to me. Like, I don't care how shitty your content is or how disturbing it is. Like, that should always be protected, because you can just not take it in. You can be like, cool, people say that, or people drew that. I don't care. Like,
right. And there's always going to be people that hate it. There's always going to be the hating faction, or the hurt faction,
right.
or the that triggered something in me faction, or whatever it is. But
right.
It seems like a lot of times artists, comedians, actors, everybody now is in a constant state of apology, which is exhausting.
Right. Yeah, eggshells too, like walking on eggshells and apologizing. But then once you apologize, there's something else like within that. Maybe your apology wasn't like real. Like, you need to apologize for your apology. Like, it creates like a culture of like, you know, it's demanding. And it's contrived. It's like, the reality is people are shitty and people are also good. And the two are there together. Like, you accept them both. There isn't this place we're going to get to, like, you know, this thinking of like, eventually we'll get to the place where our humanness is gone and it'll be only humanity. Is like, that would be like hell for me. Like, I want to see the messed up thing. It gives me some purpose.
Right.
I want to like come home and be like, man, I saw like the most messed up thing. It was like a homeless person like taking a shit and nobody cared, and like it was just like this normal like thing. It was so weird, and like whatever it is, I actually saw that, so I'm like, I thought of that. It was so weird, like downtown LA, shopping for jewelry components and things, and so busy, and this guy is just going at it, just right on the street, and I was like, at first I was like, I was angry at him, but then I was like, this is like potentially a mentally unstable person and clearly homeless and doesn't have a place to go to the bathroom. But I was also mad at like us, like all of us, like we're just walking and I was mad at myself. Like, I had to still go get this emerald. I'm like, here I am trying to find this emerald for this like beautiful engagement ring, and then there's a guy who needs a bathroom and he can't, and he doesn't have one, and he's shitting, and it's like, that is extremism. Like, that's extreme.
That is absolutely.
And there's no answer, because, you know, your good intentions, they, you know, what is that, the phrase is like, no good deed goes unpunished. Like, there's a trade-off. Let's say the reality, like someone who's really like, you know, has their morality aligned and they want an idealized world, you know, end poverty, end this, end that. The reality of that person's life is they are not going to get the emerald. They will stop and clean up the guy's shit. It was liquid, by the way, just so your listeners know. And what do? They point the guy to a bathroom, a better alley, a better what? Like, you're not going to adopt this person. Like, the reality is you're not going to cause the level of discomfort you're going to cause yourself will never be equivalent to the amount of time you have to, you know, put in to help the person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you won't let it happen. You won't let it be equivalent, because in the end you're like, oh shit, I have like a daughter and a life to take care of, and then people get mad at that, and I find that interesting in itself. Is like people are mad at how it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because we all have answers.
Where suffering comes from is like,
yeah,
this shouldn't be is the definition of suffering.
Yes. Well, and we all have our armchair answers, but like you said, then you kind of go a few steps down the line. All right, you stop looking for the emerald and going about your life and going home to your child, your daughter and your environment, or you go down the rabbit hole of that man and his life.
Right.
So
what do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do?
And you have someone that depends on you 100% and needs you, and who also poops liquid.
Right, exactly. And that's just me. And like, that's my daughter.
Yes. Okay, I have one more question for you, and then, so you had mentioned about how you're cartooning, because I dabble in cartoons. I have ideas. I'm like, sometimes I fret over the quote-unquote quality of the drawing, and when I first discovered your work, it was very freeing for me, because I realized that isn't the point. And I wondered, was that a conscious decision for you? Because your sketches sometimes are quite raw, and...
Yeah, it was. It's, the first thing is that crappy Starbucks Game of Thrones one that I did ended up being sort of like the way I landed into it. And so I was like, well, if I can draw things that impactful and not have the drawing that good, that's like, I mean, it caters to my laziness, which is good, and it's efficient. It like makes me be able to be prolific in my creating, so the choice was to keep it that way. It wasn't a choice that it emerged that way, because normally I'm a perfectionist and I would spend so much time on one thing and make sure it looks good that I probably wouldn't do more, because I realized how much time it took.
Right.
But the magic of cartooning and making it crappy is you just, if your intention and what you're saying is so clear, you can reduce it to stick figures. I mean, one of the things I draw is like these circle head people that are just, and they're just like, they are named these entities, and that's all that needs to be known. And so, I mean, that's so refreshing to me. I would not be doing this if I didn't have the luxury or understanding that it doesn't have to be pretty at all. Like, it could be really scrappy. And I like that about it. There's other cartoonists that I've looked at that have it the same way, and I'm like, oh, they don't follow any rules. It's just kind of, there's this one guy, Porous Walker, who all of his stuff are just buttholes and tits and penises in these really funny ways. Like, he'll do like a guy on a zip line, like the perspective of is like he's at the top of the zip line, and the zip line goes all the way down, and it's just going right into a butthole.
That's awesome.
And it's done with like crayon, and it's not well drawn at all. It's just enough to be like, oh, that person has some sort of artistic like inclinations, but he like severed it at like age 8, and then he used his brain to expand like ideas instead of like technical skill. So
which I love that so much. Thank you. I am thrilled. I want to all the different ways people can find you. So there's Instagram.com/MadebyJimbob, Facebook.com/MadebyJimbob. Do you have a website too? Is there?
My website, MadebyJimbob, goes directly to my Etsy account, which is some jewelry, but now it's slowly getting overtaken by cartoons and prints and things like that. And so yeah, mostly my activity is all on Instagram, and then everything else links from there. I mean, the best way to follow my work is on Instagram,
And
Made by Jim.
Can people buy originals or only prints? Or
Yes. Yeah, my originals go for $100, and the prints go for between $30 and $45. then I sign them and stuff, and they come in a really cool package. So yeah, all my originals are for sale. All of the major ones that kind of went mini viral, I sold out of requests. People requested them. That was cool. And yeah, it's that's my future, is doodling.
Well, I can't wait for the book, and I wish you all the success. I think you're fantastic.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and appreciate you inviting me on here. And I really love your other stuff. I really the Jill one was so it's like what everyone wants to know. I mean, that alone could be repeated if you just find the right. I just think that's so great.
Thank you.
The concept of your podcast is really great, and it's good that you're the person asking the questions.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Jimbob, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on Instagram.
Okay, and then when does this come out?
I'll let you know. I'll send you the link, and I'll send you the postery thing, and I'll put on my heyhumanpodcast.com website all the links so that people can find you directly as well. So
awesome. Well,
yeah.
if you draw a cartoon and you post it, tag me in it.
Okay. Awesome.
I want to see what that brain has.
Okay, good. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.